What do you think about when you hear the words roses and thorns? Those two words are polar opposite, and that's what we're going to talk about, the polar opposite of the high highs and the low lows in our life, and why sometimes we gravitate to those low moments, and how do we move forward from here. Welcome to Women Leaders on the Move, a HerCsuite radio podcast. I'm your host, Natalie Benamou, and every week I learn right alongside you, even when I'm coming to you personally without a guest like I am today. I'm also the founder of HerCsuite, where we help women build what's next, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So let's dive in. Recently, I had a conversation with one of the guests from this show, Beth Grimm, and we're working on a really exciting project, and she had shared something she uses coaching clients, which is this idea of roses and thorns. And I hadn't really put the dots together until I attended an event with another guest that was on this show, Shelley Zalis. I went to the Female Quotient, the FQ Lounge here in Chicago, one of the most memorable activations I've ever experienced. And let me share that I've done probably over 10,000 or more events, probably more than that, well over that. And I was blown away by every nuance, every detail. But what really stuck with me was something that Shelley shared, and it got me to reflect. Shelley talked about a moment when she was in her mid-20s and she worked at a job and got a review that blindsided her. This might have happened to you one or two times. Maybe you're thinking right now in your mind about a blindside moment. She was taken aback. She didn't agree with the feedback, and she retained that feedback all these years later. We're talking over 35 or 40 years later, she still has the printout of this negative feedback. Recently, she was asked about a moment in her career. She shared with the interviewer about that moment, and the interviewer actually asked her old boss, why did he give her this negative feedback? Do you regret it? He said no, and she was stunned and thought, why does he not feel bad about this feedback he gave me? And he told her she never would have become the chief troublemaker that she is had she not had that moment. Now, I'm going to challenge that a little bit, but also share my own moment, because I instantly can remember a similar moment for myself and how it was pivotal. The reason why this is so important is sometimes we carry 10, 20, 30, 40 years, this message. And it always is the thing that's inspiring us to do great things. And sometimes we're gravitating towards that negativity to lift us up and lift others up, but we're missing out on also carrying those positive messages. So here's my moment, one of many, but one that I can still remember all the details of. And this also might resonate with you. I remember the date, January 9th, 2020. So that should tell you something that I remember the date. Now, 2020 was an epic year, and I remember a lot of dates that happened, especially in that first quarter of the year. You probably do too. But I remember that date because I was hosting the very first event at my company at the warehouse, where we had 33,000 square feet. And I had 55 women coming to the company. We had never done anything like this. I had 5 speakers who were staged precisely in different places in the building. I curated the experience, the groups who would be going and listening to each speaker in small groups, the topics, everything was orchestrated. So the morning of, I go in, I'm feeling energetic, I'm got my little thank you things that I was giving out to my team, and I get called into a meeting with a peer of mine and my boss, and I got the worst review I had ever gotten. And it stunned me truly. And it was very personal. And it was really to the core of me because the instructions were don't thank people, don't show gratitude. Those are things that are in my DNA that I can't not do. And it took me so far off of that high of feeling excited about this moment. And we were going to have all these women come and they were prospects. And how exciting was that, that we had this new way of selling to customers that was going to connect women and then also have an opening to show our capabilities. And I was thrown off like someone that gets thrown off a horse and the horse stomps on them. I couldn't get the wind back in me. I went out to my car. I'll tell you, I cried in my car out in the parking lot. I was destroyed by this feedback because it was personal and it wasn't like, you didn't achieve your numbers or it was not business. It was very personally targeted to me. And I listened to a lot of positive, motivational speakers in my car that were lifting me up and telling me that I could do this thing. And I really wasn't sure if I was going to be able to host this event, to be honest with you. I was that destroyed from this conversation, but I rallied, I walked in the building. We killed it that night. We had the best event. No one knew. Most everybody on my team had no idea. Certainly none of the speakers or the attendees had any idea that I had just had this pivotal moment. And the reason that moment was so important is I carried it with me as the decision-making stake in leaving my career at the end of the year. Just like Shelley had made the decision that that was it. She wasn't going to continue on that road. And I'm sure if you're listening, I talk to women all the time. There's that stake or the fork in the road, and you're like, I am not doing this anymore. Sometimes those negative moments give us the power, the permission to have grit, to take it forward, to do something unexpected that we didn't know we had in us. 2020 was just one of the hardest years for the world. And at the end of that year, I felt free to make the choice that I did. But I always remember that moment. I remember the conversation, and I didn't have a printout because this was this ad hoc review that I wasn't expecting. It was not organized. So I don't have a piece of paper that I carry around with me, and I probably wouldn't carry it around with me. But those moments, they count, right? Why do we hold on to them? Why do we think about those pivotal moments of negativity rather than something positive? I think each of us can remember moments like that that give us pause, that make us then start to question ourselves. Am I really, and then fill in the blank that the person already filled in for you. And you start to doubt. Doubt happens to everyone. Even if you look at someone as successful as someone like Shelley, who I admire so much, and not knowing that story until I sat in the audience. And I think everybody in the audience could remember a moment like I just shared with you. And also, what do we do with it afterwards? Look at what she's done. She created a moment, then a movement and a momentum to change how women are in the workplace for generations. So yes, that pivotal moment created all the amazing things that she's doing today. And I bet there's something like that for you. There may be a moment that you're thinking about right now. There's also the positive moments. And I'm going to share one that I still remember also to this day. My career has been in sales, generating large enterprise deals. The biggest one of my career was $4.5 million at the time, which today in present value of money is probably worth $10 million. But at the time, it was very complicated. There were 11 divisions that I was bringing together under one umbrella. There was a lot of politics, and I had orchestrated a surprise and a strategy, and it worked. We won, but I didn't know that we were going to win. And there's a lot of things that happened in between. And I still remember the phone call I got at 1:30 a.m. All the divisions had met that day. It went into the late evening, and they chose my team and our solution for them. And we built the biggest exhibit. I don't think that that company has ever built anything as complex as what we did. It was 3 double decks, very complicated, beautiful structure. And I can remember the call. I remember how I felt, the elation that I felt that we did it. We were able to design and create a strategy that no one expected, and we won. We hold on to both sides, roses and thorns. That's a rose moment. Thorn is the one I shared with you first. Why did I share a thorn moment first instead of a rose moment? Because human nature, we tend to go to those thorny times first. That's where our brain goes. I'm sure there's neuroscience and there's listeners here that will tell you all about the neuroscience, about the brain and why we think about negativity. But I think it's important to remember the rose moments more than the thorns. The rose moments are those times that lift you up and carry you through the thorny moments. And it's that elation. I remember probably almost all of the big deals that I closed, the call that I got, and we used to have a saying, good news Fridays, bad news Mondays. It's almost true. I would say that a lot of times the good news comes because the client cannot wait to tell you that you are the winner and they want to work with you. And it's such a fantastic feeling. Monday, not the same experience, which is maybe why we have Monday scaries. I don't know. But in sales, it's definitely true that we have an upswing on Fridays. There's always this good news that lifts us up. And I want you to think about what has happened for you, what has lifted you up. And it doesn't have to be these big moments of closing big deals. It can be something really simple. I'll share another simple story with you. Not that long ago, I went to an event. I was amazingly gifted a ticket to a sold out event, and it was going to happen in about 2 hours. And I live 2 hours away. I dropped everything. I went to this program. It was phenomenal. I made so many great connections there. And when I left, I had this really great feeling like, you know what? I went downtown. I figured out and navigated the streets. It's pretty dicey sometimes in the heart of Chicago. There's bike riders and pedestrians and buses and all kinds of things happening all at once. If you live in a big city, you know what I mean. And sometimes Google Maps doesn't work and you have to go on memory. And I navigated all of that and I found the best parking spot and I figured out how to get into the labyrinth of this gigantic building called the Merchandise Mart here in Chicago, if you know it. And I found the event and I went to the event and I had a great experience. And that was something I felt really happy about. It was a rose moment. And sometimes we can just celebrate that we did something so ordinary that it's extraordinary, because the ordinary things don't come easily to all of us. This might surprise you, but I am definitely an introverted extrovert. I can be on stage. I love speaking on stage. I love being in a big group. I've spoken to 1,000 people at a conference, and then I need my cone of silence. And so going into those spaces, you think if you see me, I will be on. I will engage with you and be so thrilled that I met you. But afterwards, I take stock in the fact that that's a rose moment for me, that I did do that. What's a rose moment for you? I want you to close your eyes right now and think about, has there been something recently that you can celebrate? And it can be something ordinary. It could be, I got up today and I did the thing that I knew I could do. I wasn't sure, but I did it anyway. Or it could just be, I got up today and I greeted the day with a smile, something simple. I think sometimes we overcomplicate the way that we feel all this pressure and we feel like we have to have all the rose moments. There can be no thorn moments. But you know what? Life's a pathway of valleys and mountaintops. And we wouldn't appreciate those mountaintop moments that I shared, like that phone call that I can still remember over 20 years later, And I can also remember and appreciate the low lows and anything in between. That's where the magic happens. We can blend those two together and move forward. I want to encourage you today to think about what's one thing that you can celebrate about yourself, celebrate about someone else, and celebrate something about the future. I was thinking a lot about this episode because this is the 280th episode of this podcast. It's also the 380th podcast episode that I've ever recorded because this is my second show. The stories haven't changed that much with women in the last 9 years. I started my first podcast to lift women up and give visibility to marketers. This show is to give visibility to women leaders, to lift you up, the listener in the 98 countries that are listening and tuning in. I appreciate you so much. But we're still in the same place in many ways, even though we've got technology and we've got all these different things like AI and ideas. And we would hope that we would move forward, but there's still these rose and thorn moments. How you respond to them, that's your power. How you choose to carry that piece of paper with you, or do you choose to let them and let you, to quote Mel Robbins? That's up to you. And my hope is that you have more rose moments than thorns, but also don't shy away from those thorn moments. It's what makes you so special. It gives you the grit to keep going. And I believe in you and you believe in yourself. That's the best gift of all. Thank you for spending your time with me today. Thanks for letting me share those stories with you to open up about a personal journey and also how we together can empower each other, lift each other up. It's so important. Those three things, something that gives you joy, that gives you a rose moment. Now take that rose, pass it on to someone else, and then keep it and keep moving forward. Keep shining your light bright. The world needs you.